Hello and welcome! This is the day after XCON 2017. Yesterday we had our office here full of visitors to show X4 Foundations for the first time to the public and also to play X Rebirth VR Edition here live at our office. And it all went well. We also streamed the event on Twitch, and that was also a first for us and was quite successful, I think. And this video will bring this all to you on YouTube now. I'm trying to recap the session. This video will start with the presentation video we made for X4 and will be followed by some live gameplay with me talking over it, and afterwards the Q&A session as we had it yesterday after the presentation. So enjoy.
In X4, we're going to have a much more dynamic universe. We've focused on that a lot in the past with our previous games, but this time we've given the AI a lot more capability when it comes to managing their fleets, building up their forces, building in new areas, conquering space. And this is something that the player can get involved in as well when it comes to missions.
The great thing about our more dynamic factions in this game is that they change the universe much more than ever before, and even for us, it's not always predictable what it's going to look like. Every start is different. And at the same time, this really, really helps to make the universe feel much more alive than ever before. That, and of course, flying every ship.
Yeah, you can fly every ship in the game. You can fly every small fighter, every medium bomber, every freighter, every miner, every capital ship and carrier if you want to. And it's a lot of fun.
The player's always looking for new technologies to research, upgrades for their ships, technology such as the transporter, which can get them into the action really quickly. I think it's a really cool addition to our game.
One of the foundations of every X game is the economy that is entirely based on supply and demand. And it's happening all across the universe, whether you are there to see it or not. Every good is produced somewhere, transported, and if it successfully reaches its destination, of course, supplies other stations. And those stations base their prices then on what they have available or not. If the ship gets destroyed, prices go up. With X4, we're going even further. It's not just the general wares that are being traded, but every aspect of the economy. That includes building ships or stations. All of it is really based on the resources that are coming out of the universe. They are produced somewhere. An advanced player can become this tycoon that has a massive empire of factories and stations that really affect anything in the universe. The entire market situation is completely adaptable and fluctuating depending on what you, the player, does.
The first-person experience is completely seamless. There are no loading screens when you fly your ship, land on a platform, get out of your ship, talk to a guy, go back to your ship and undock again. Everything is perfectly seamless.
For X4 I created new shaders for the backgrounds and especially for the planets. We added some new features where I can now control the sea level, the size of the polar caps, the cloud cover, atmosphere density and also population. To dynamically adjust the planet during the design process.
One of the coolest features in X4 is management of NPCs. Pilots, for example. If a pilot steers your ship, he will be sitting on the pilot chair, of course, and it is very easy to take over the control. You just click on the chair, the guy gets up, you sit down and take over the control of the ship. He disappears to the back of the ship, and the moment you get up again, he comes back and takes over the control again and will continue whatever he was doing before. So if you give commands to your ships, it is very easy to take over temporarily and do something yourself. Complicated commands like trade runs or more sophisticated AI commands can always be given through the map interface. The map is your one gateway to everything in the game, and you can control large fleets of ships with it. And the moment you jump into any of those ships through teleportation, you can take over each and every one of those ships very quickly. This is a very cool feature and one of the highlights of X4.
The map has become an awesome tool to manage your universe-wide empire. You can see an entire overview and then zoom in seamlessly to micromanage even the smallest things if you want. You can turn on and off several info layers for trading and other things. You can give commands to your ships directly on the map. It's really cool.
About the topic station building, the changes from Rebirth we made are that you can build stations in separate pieces. You are not bound to any build plans anymore. You start construction of a station with a central module. It's usually a pier, a module where capital ships can dock. And from there you can decide if you are going to expand storages, if you add production components, and also living sections for the people to live in.
Our new engine uses a physics-based rendering approach, which allows us more control over material properties. And additionally, by using Vulkan as our render engine, we now have a few more resources left that we can invest in some more advanced features. So I think that X4 will be the most stunning X game you will ever see.
The most exciting feature for me is that if you stand on a docking platform and you feel like a real person, you can look at tiny details on the ground and you can look above in the sky and see these giant constructions, which makes you feel really small and you think you are really there. And there are ships parked on this platform and you can walk there seamlessly, enter the ships, enter the cockpit chair, press the button. All these instruments are going on in the ship and you start flying around to the next station, dock there, and you leave the ship and everything is just in one line. It's seamlessly and you feel, wow, there's no hard cut and it looks all great.
So can people hear me? There, most importantly. I guess people can hear me here. I would just have to talk loud enough. But we were a little bit worried about the sound on the stream and downstairs especially. This is so complicated. We changed the whole office. Yeah, about each of those features in there, I wanted to just say a couple of words and why we show the game live. So we will play live a little bit, and then afterwards you guys can ask questions, and we do a little bit Q&A, both from the internet and live here. So yeah, there were so many things that were already mentioned shortly in the video. And we cannot show all of that live now here because that would take ages. But maybe before the game is loaded, we go in with one of the game starts here. There was a mentioning of modular stations. I don't know if this really came across. The thing is that you really have now Lego building. You can build stations from individual modules and connect them. This is something that we always wanted to do. But, well, it always failed for different reasons, unfortunately, so far. In X Rebirth, we went a little bit in that direction, but unfortunately, there were still build plans involved. So you always had to only choices. It was modular to a degree, but you couldn't really connect them yourself. And that, of course, eliminates the design aspect of it. The really cool feature with X4 station building is that you can do completely crazy designs. You can stack modules vertically, horizontally. You have different categories of modules like living sections, production modules, obviously. Lino already mentioned that part, so I don't have to repeat it. But
this is something we can probably not show live, so I'm already saying that. So what you see here is now the landing on a platform, and on that platform in this game start, the player already has multiple ships, and yeah, we're climbing down the ladder here, and that is really one of the most important new things in the game, that you have this seamless flow from one ship to the platform to another ship, no loading interruptions. And this works no matter if you command ships or if you fly them yourself. So the 3 ships that we have parked here on the platform in this game start all already have pilots. So when the game starts, this is already set up. So this is already a relatively advanced game start for what we did in the past, where you usually only start with a single ship. But the idea with X4 is that game starts are much more versatile, much more different than in the past, and that you actually not play this one single plot like you did in several of our games. I don't know, I mean, I know I will get pretty contradicting answers and probably different opinions if I ask about which of the X games you liked most. But one of the things that we always hear is, of course, the like two sides, the people who love the X3 games and those who don't like and don't like X Rebirth for that reason, and people who came a little bit later and play X Rebirth, well, maybe with a different eye. Yeah, they don't miss the features that we didn't have in X Rebirth, which were in X3. Like, of course, all of the ships you can fly yourself. I mean, that was, of course, always the one feature that was mentioned first. But if you look at the history of the X games, there are quite a bunch of them that it's like almost alterating, one with the plot and then the sequels usually with 3 game starts. Like X3 Reunion had a plot, and then Terran Conflict and Albion Prelude were more free. Of course, we still tell stories, we still have those mission chains in there, but it's not that singular plot that is especially that evolves around a person. Like X Rebirth is one of those games as well. You have one person and the story is designed for that one person. Whereas in Albion Prelude and in Terran Conflict, you can play different people and you can play even different races. And that is true for X4 as well. We figured that this is really what works best for X games, that people can decide themselves what they want to do. And this, of course, gives us also a lot more freedom to well, throw you in with more different types of things, like different views on factions. Like one time, this faction is your friend. With another game start, right at the beginning, they are already your enemy. Of course, faction relations can change and so forth, but that's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, animations are not all final, as you can see. I mean, the game isn't finished, right? We are just announcing it, but you can play everything already. That's we're pretty proud of what you can already do. This is also another difference to some of the other games. We now for X4 are working on it for a long time already with a really good working game, so we can really concentrate on the gameplay, and that is because we already have a good solid foundation in terms of technology. There is one exception, that's the graphics engine. This is really innovative and new, but this is going surprisingly smooth because we now are currently testing the new graphic engine with the VR edition. Don't know if you are aware of that, but those of you who have a VR system and tested it downstairs, that's already the Vulkan engine. It's still using there the X Rebirth assets, but you may see if you compare it closely, you will see visual differences. Of course, it doesn't look like X4 because it's different assets, but the engine is already the new one, so we can test it there. And so this last aspect of completely new technology is also going really strong now. Yeah, what we saw on the platform was that there were 2 very different types of ships docked there. There's an M ship and an S ship. I think we commanded the M ship to just go away through the map, and this is now an Argon Nova, I believe. This is like, if you show it in the external view, maybe shortly, this is a ship that is pretty extreme, one of the smallest ones, so it's an S ship, obviously, where really only you and a co-pilot fit in. And the co-pilot already has to stand in a relatively small enclosure in the back of the ship. Yeah, but the co-pilot is nevertheless very important because he allows you to really switch between ships quickly. If you have a co-pilot on every ship, even if you don't see him like you did in X Rebirth all the time, X Rebirth ship was much bigger than the Nova. You can always leave a ship at any time, and the pilot will help you continue what the ship was doing before, and you never end up with stranded ships somewhere standing on the stations. Once your fleet grows, that's quite important. The cool thing about the Nova is it's a nice example to also show different physics and different steering behaviors we are experimenting with. I'm sure some of you are fans of Elite Dangerous, for example, where you have this roll steering, which we didn't have in the past, or we usually made it configurable, but then you had to choose what you do. So that's of course all still possible. You can play the game with joystick, gamepad, and all kinds of input devices, and that's even much more configurable than it was before. But with some ships, you can use something we call adaptive steering, which means that the game figures out if the ship is better at rolling and steering or better for normal steering. And this is of course a ship where it's very obvious that it can roll faster because it can rotate its side engines, so it can do a roll maneuver much faster than a steering maneuver. And this is also true for, of course, long freighters, where you have the mass really on that axis, that a rotation takes much longer than a roll. So some people are not comfortable with that, then you just turn off adaptive steering. But adaptive steering is pretty cool once you get used to it. So then your input device changes with what you do. So maybe we switch over to one of our save games. Yeah. We had something about trading prepared already, because we know that this is of course also quite an important area for everybody, I guess. And what it also shows is, for us, one of the, I think it's safe to say the biggest new feature, and that is the map in the game. Because
loading times, I have to say. Loading times are really good.
Ah, okay, fine, thank you. No, but the map is really cool, and I hope intuitive, because this is one of our main efforts already with X Rebirth, was to get a little bit, maybe I should explain that a little bit, why we did X Rebirth and why some of you are so unhappy about it. When we worked with the X series, we worked on X Beyond, and then for, I don't know, at that time, 15 years, continued to developing it with the community, always listening to feedback, and that mostly told us, add features, we want this, we want that, and we did that. But the problem with that, if you do that over so many years, is that the game gets more and more complicated, and the user interface had to deal with features that it wasn't really designed for at the beginning. So the user interface was maybe okay for those people who already know the game, but if you're new to the game, then it really was a bit scary, especially the text lists and feature that you have to understand first. So with X Rebirth, we really wanted to focus on how we can redesign a game and focus more on the core gameplay features of space games. For me, that means especially the actual fighting, the battling. When one ship fights against another small ship, or more importantly, when a smaller ship that you are steering is maybe attacking a capital ship or a station. And it's not just about fighting, attacking, but interacting in general. I think one of the reasons why space games became a little less a smaller part of the market in the 90s and early 2000s is because there were shooter games, which the growing market of games like Doom and Wolfenstein and all of those, which of course are now like the biggest video games out there, and we look at them maybe as the primitive games, because they don't have trading and building and aspects like that. But if you just focus on the core gameplay, the stuff that you really do most in there, then the actual fight aspect is more complex there than it is in a space game. In space games, especially like the early ones, you just had ships flying towards each other, and the environment was usually not very important. Maybe there's an asteroid field, maybe there's a nebula that has a little effect, but the ship that you fight against, there is relatively little time to see it and relatively little difference from one ship to the other. Whereas in a shooter, you have the corridors, you have the light situation that can make a difference, where are the zombies hiding and all of those things. So we wanted to bring level design into the space game, really. And that was what X Rebirth was all about for us. Stations with much more detail, these hundreds of surface elements. And it's not just visual gimmicks. This what about interacting with those things, not just destroying the turrets on the surface, which other space games had as well, but it's really also for trading, for hacking, for scanning, all of those little things, even on a capital ship. When you fight with a capital ship, there's a jump drive, for example. It's a surface element. You can disable it separately. And there's I think, more than 100 or so, up to 100 surface elements on a capital ship. So it's really like a level in itself. And one of the features that I'm still very proud of in X Rebirth was, I don't know how many other games did that before, that you get into the environment of the capital ship, you get sucked in gradually, and then you can concentrate on the capital ship and it drags you with it, because that allows us to have capital ships not stopping so you can attack it, or flying all the time super slow, and especially not rotating, because as soon as a capital ship rotates and you are trying to focus on something at the worst on the inside, God help, that's a big problem. So you have to have this, and I think that's what we really did very well in X Rebirth, that you gradually get into it and gradually can fly out without too much of an interruption, and you can really focus on surface elements, do hacking and so on. I know there's criticism of the game and we screwed up many things, and we hope we did well with some of the add-ons, which were received much better. So, and now with the VR version, I think we really made it a really good game. You should try it out if you have the time downstairs. But yeah, this brings me to X4 and why we are here today. I mean, for us, this is like bringing the two streams together. On the one hand, all of the feature richness of X3, and on the other hand, these innovations that we did on the engine side with multi-threading and the graphic engine and so on, but also on the gameplay side with the stuff that I just talked about. And we want to have it both. And we want to have it easily accessible, so new players can play it. And that's where the map comes in, because the map is easy to understand for new players. It's something you know from other games. It has point and click. You have context menus to do stuff, give commands to your ships. You can see the paths that your ships will take in the future. And this becomes incredibly useful once you have more ships. You can, in this game start, we wanted to demonstrate trading. So there's this little squad here, and you can turn on and off layers of information on the map. I don't know if the trade, this is, for example, the layer for trade information. If you zoom out, you see no offers at the moment. The offers are because you already filtered. So this is already like a pre-sorted best deals kind of menu, but it only shows you the best deals first on a per station level. And when you zoom out further, it starts grouping the stations. So you have like a little cluster of stations. You zoom out further, it shows you the best deals for an entire zone or for an entire sector. And it always shows like the buy offers on the top and the sell offers at the bottom. So like this is where it goes into the station, this is where it goes out, and you can filter further. If you click on one of the products, then you only see, like the medical supplies in this case, you only see the medical supply offers on other stations. I think this really makes it very easy to not just see the good deals and see, aha, I buy there for this price and I can sell it there for another price. But more importantly, that you also see and have a feeling for the distances. Because that's something that was missing in all the X games before. You always had a trade menu of some form, but it is very hard to get an understanding of how far ships have to fly. And we wanted, this is really natural for this kind of strategy interface, which was always missing, in my opinion, in the X games. And another feature that I can talk about with this presentation is then teleportation, because this kind of extends the whole idea. Because X games are about this cockpit first-person perspective. You sit in a cockpit, you fly the ship, and now you also have this strategy interface, which is like the other extreme. But where it comes together is the teleportation feature, where you can really, after you unlocked this technology, which brings me to research, which is a feature in the plot of the game. So you discover research, and this allows you to get new technologies, and one of them is teleportation. And teleportation then gradually goes higher. So at the beginning you have a limited range, and you develop it further, then you get a bigger range. Oh, no, we don't have a game. Yeah, okay, but
Space Mountain in the way.
I think we, at the moment we are beta testing more the streaming than the game. This was not the game crashing because we don't have so much experience with streams, at least not the years we have with the game. No, but yeah, you develop new technologies like teleportation, and the teleportation is really cool because it allows you to not just see that, like, there's this at the remote end of the universe, I have a station, I'm here playing a mission, then I see, oh, my station is under attack. Well, then I can only give commands. This is how it was in the past. Maybe then we added the jump drive to help you get there quicker, the highways to help you get quicker through the universe, but that's still, we cannot make that too powerful because otherwise the whole traveling would be pointless and you get to all of the, and especially exploration. So with teleportation, you can always get to your ships. So where you have ships, you can get immediately once you developed it far enough. But you still have all, the universe is huge. It's bigger than anything before. And you can have a lot of exploration area at the sites. And so it takes you very long to find the new areas, but it is very quick to get to where you were already. So this is, I don't know, yeah, we already teleported over to the M ship here. This is an M ship and you are in the cockpit and you see the docking platform in front. This is where the S ships could land. So this is like a little squad, but a squad with the ability to land on the leader. And some of those ships have also internal storage. I think this one does. So in that case, if an S ship lands, it can open, and just like on a station, it is stored inside. And you can always walk, you can just get up, walk out and go to that platform and enter one of the docked ships. This is, again, the seamless aspect and really, really cool. Another thing, maybe before we should go to the next save game, maybe to the, did I want to say, what you did see here is that in some sectors you have highways. Right here, I mean, this may be also contradicting opinions about if you like highways or not. I know when people say they love the X3 games more than X Rebirth, I think sometimes it is also about that emptiness of space and that feeling of flying for a long time through a more empty area. And in X Rebirth, we tried to also provide the opposite, like a dense thing. I always called it, when we worked on X Rebirth, GTA in space. Cities where you have... we probably have a presentation soon. That was yeah, yeah. So this is also something we wanted to offer, like especially when you do the trading, like the density of a city atmosphere, lots of stations nearby, and the ability to reach them fast with the highways. And yeah, we didn't do it all right with the beginning of X Rebirth, but I think especially with Home of Light, I don't know who of you played Home of Light, we figured how to improve that really well. Home of Light is a system with a ring around the core sectors where you can fly around really fast, but which still has a lot of periphery where you have a lot of room for exploration. And this is something we are doing in X4 more. So you will have both things. We will have a lot of area where there are no highways and emptiness, and you can explore forever and fly. And you need time there to fly also from a station to another station. You have the boost drive that helps you. You have Zeta that helps you. But it's different feeling when you explore there than in the core areas where you have a highway. This is a really beautiful ship, one of my favorites, by the way. This is an, if you jump to the cockpit, you're already flying it. This is the Peregrine. Thank you for. Yeah, this is maybe you can look around the cockpit a little bit. It's I really like this kind of ships. They have so many configuration options. You have this is already like M size. That's why you also have more chairs. There are no pilots in here now, so he's the only one. If there would, then the moment you get up, the pilot would have come out of one of the doors and sit down or stand up from one of the other chairs.
You have the helm. You have the helm.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, but it's yeah, it's a really cool ship, and it shows at the outside the modularity on ships as well. So I already talked a little bit about the modularity on stations, and this ship has a lot of configuration options, and everything you configure about the ship, like of course the turrets and many other things, the engines, thrusters, there's lots of stuff you can configure, and that is visible, animated, and yeah, so you see how your ship develops, what upgrades you put on it, and yeah, that's really cool. What did I not mention so far? Maybe we go quickly to the fact that you can also fly a capital ship. Yay. Quickly show that, because that was one of the requests. When we worked on X Rebirth, I always made bad comments about that, because I said that people actually, everybody wants that feature, but the feature doesn't really work very well, because if you really take over the control of such a huge ship, which even though they will not turn very fast, right? So if you steer it with a joystick or a gamepad, it takes a while. Yeah. But it's so cool, so people still want to do it. And that's why, yeah. So it's why we added it. So this is a bridge of a capital ship with some crew on it. And maybe you show the bridge a little bit. The guys run around, and you have this one guy who is the captain. There are other consoles with people doing service jobs. We have this NPC management where people do where you can assign how many people you put into which kind of job. This is a little bit similar to what you know already from earlier games with Marines, where Marines is just one class for fighting and taking over capital ships. But now we have some other classes of NPCs. And then there are those NPCs that really work for you in an important role, like in the case of such a ship, of course, the captain, because he's the one that usually executes your commands, the commands that you enter on the map. That is always one person, a pilot on a small ship, a captain on a larger ship, or the manager on a station. And yeah, you pick over and steer the ship yourself, or you give commands on the map. I still believe that most of the time you will give commands to such ships with the map, but you can take over yourself. So. There was another save game, the last one. No, we are through, I think. Yeah, this is the last one. So yeah, I think we talked more than enough already. Do a little Q&A, and then thank you. So, anybody who has questions? Yeah,
the stations that you built, can you also walk freely around those?
You can walk. You saw already that we walked on a platform. There are stations that have multiple platforms. There are rooms that bring you from one to the other. And the indoor gameplay that we had in X Rebirth, we reduced a bit, but we will have other indoor gameplay. But it's not like you can run around endlessly without any reason. It's not part of exploration, if you want. Yeah. What you do is normally you play mission, and basically like a mission NPC tells you, come to my room, yeah, and then you have permission to enter the private quarter, so to say, and you can go into the inside of the station. Okay.
There are like two small things that I would like to know about X4. In X Rebirth, we had a lot of mods that made the game really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like it finished the product, kind of, right?
Cool.
But it has taken ages for you guys to adapt the best or the most used mods as stock in your vanilla game. Like the flying with capital ships with the capital bridge mod is awesome, and it's really easy.
Yeah.
Why isn't
this is a little bit contradicting, because it's great that somebody does it as a mod, but I think that's really something that belongs in a mod. If there are mods that are really fitting,
stuff, you know?
because it's technically it's so it works well as a mod, but if you would make it an integral part of the game, then we would have to make it better, not just technically better, because there are some problems with it that on a mod you're not criticizing this much.
It has to be reformed.
Yeah, it's really not so easy. There's I mean we did it with X4, and that required a lot of other changes as well. It's not just having a cockpit is not enough. We wanted to have the whole experience of also being able to leave the cockpit fluently or the bridge and yes, having a bridge is of course cool, and that's why I mean there are mods, and we help people making mods and also making and installing them very easily. I mean that's why we have how is it called, workshop, a Steam workshop, where even people that are normally not so much into modding can install those things very quickly, and we plan to continue that, of course, in the future.
Two questions actually. First, since you're using Vulkan, then we can also expect a Linux port faster?
No comment. I don't know really. I mean, this is not a priority, as it depends on many things, and a little bit on things that are out of our own hands. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Maybe for the sake of the Twitch audience, could you repeat the question before answering?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. This was a question about Linux port, because we are already using Vulkan, which we did choose Vulkan for many reasons, because it's just a cool API. But it is one of the reasons is also that it allows us porting, and it's not bound to one platform. And yes, we love Linux, and we love porting the game to other platforms, like we did with the whole series so far. This whole Steam Play thing is really great. I like what Valve is doing there. But I cannot promise that we will do X4 for Linux. It depends on other people. We definitely would love to do it.
Okay, and the second question is, I saw Baronet in the game.
Yeah.
But is also going to be Borons in the game?
Borons are a bit of a problem. We would love to have them in. No, so far they are not in. So I doubt they will make it in time. They're probably a bit late to the party.
Well, at least it's good.
They're always problematic, you know. They look strange when they swim on the platforms, and they cannot just walk. We had some concepts for how we could solve that, but it's complicated. Let's put it like that.
Well, I just have to use wheelchairs.
Any more questions? Yeah? Ja, klar.
Ich wollte fragen, ob das in Vorbereitung ist, auch dieses X4 dann in virtuelle Realität zu machen.
Virtual reality, that's a good question. Yeah, the question was if we also plan to make X4 virtual reality. I mean, with all of the work we put into Rebirth VR edition, that is what you probably expect. But no, the answer is not at the start, and more importantly, not as one game. Because it's not, and really, believe me, this is not about selling the same game twice. It's a different game. We figured that out during the development of X Rebirth VR edition. We knew from the start that the user interface has to be different. If you play it downstairs, you will see if you take off the headset, it switches basically to a different experience. It's not so obvious if you just look, but if you play yourself, there's a lot of things that change. The whole game goes into a different mode, and it automatically detects it when you take it off. And this is still a game that runs in 2D, but it is designed for VR. And that means you balance everything differently. We have a different universe for a reason. Of course, it would be possible to just make that game and then say, hello, that is our game now. Everybody basically plays the VR game. But that would be a little bit like a console port where you limit one to whatever the other allows you, yeah, like limiting yourself to the smallest common denominator. The VR version is great, and the not VR version is great, but you are limited by hardware restrictions to very different things. The frame rate is, of course, one of those. I mean, a VR game is designed to run with a crazy high frame rate. I mean, we definitely aim to have this running at high frame rates, that like the 60 frames that most gamers really want is our goal as well. But if our goal is 60 frames on a high-end machine with a normal game, then we have to make a big difference if the VR game has to run at 200 frames. Yeah, and you cannot just show the same universe. If you do that, you will limit yourself to whatever VR allows you to do. So we hope we will be able to make a VR game out of this, and I'm sure we will give it to people who bought the normal game like we do now with a loyalty discount cheaper, or we make a bundle where both are in or something like that. This is simply not decided yet, but it also depends a lot on the market, because right now the VR market is of course not there yet. We hope we help a little bit with making VR edition of X Rebirth, but we have to see.
Okay, thank you.
See?
Is the galaxy map concept the same as in Rebirth, or will it be different? Will there be different ways to travel through the galaxy? So we know that we have highways. Before we had
Yes.
gates.
Yes.
Will it be now a mixture of both? Or?
Well, the gates were also in X Rebirth, and it's just that in X Rebirth there was a clear hierarchy. You had the local highway. Local highway brings you to a superhighway. So the superhighway is the one that does the interplanetary distances, brings you to another planet, another moon. So the background changes a little bit, but overall it's still the same system. You can tell by the nebulas and the stars. And then when you go through a gate, you jump somewhere completely different in a galaxy. So suddenly everything looks different. And this concept is true in X4 as well. But as I said before, we will have a lot more variety in the type of environments. So there's a lot more like in X3 where you only have gates and you just fly normally from gate to gate. And then there is the core part of the universe where you have more highways. This is a little bit like the infrastructure of the normal world, right? Where you have the cities with a lot of roads, and then you go out and to the outskirts, and there's less infrastructure. Sorry?
No jump gates here.
Yeah, the jump gates are the jump gates are of course necessary. Otherwise, you don't get there. But the jump gates were installed before. It's I don't know if everybody knows the fiction. If you don't, read the books. We have them downstairs. But the highways are built by the people living in the universe. The gates were not. So, yeah.
I have some question about the economy. In the past, especially in Rebirth, it was that every equipment was more or less built for the shipyards, and then the shipyards built a ship, and the ship was sent out to nowhere just to die. Is this changed, this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. That was Owen and Michael's part in the beginning of the presentation where they talked about it, the dynamic universe. This is massively changed. In the beginning, in all X games so far, we always tried to get more towards what we now achieved, which is a universe in which the realistic resources that basically from mining at the bottom end of the economy, then further going up in that pyramid of economic factories that refine things to higher level products, there was always, we had to create an artificial drain at the top, because the real drain, the shipyards, but more importantly also what you think is in the universe, station building and the wars, yeah, those connecting those drains with the actual economy would have led to a disaster for us in balancing, because we just couldn't balance it the way the game was designed. What we did in the past was we designed the universe including the stations, and then if something really massive changes in the universe, then basically the player is the one that does those changes. While now in X4 the NPCs are dynamically analyzing the economy and build stations themselves. This also means we can start the game with different universes every time. Also, stations look different because they do not follow presets of station construction. They actually have some rules that we can suggest, but the NPCs decide themselves which modules they build based on the economy. So if they see there's a shortage of a product, then NPCs as well start to build that stuff. So that means station construction is an economic drain, shipyards is an economic drain, and yeah.
So now it's also possible to interrupt the production effectively of the NPCs.
You can completely destroy a station if that is your question. That was not possible in X Rebirth, yes.
Not only destroy a station, but only more or less eliminate more or less action.
Yeah, you can. Right, Owen?
Sorry, what?
The answer is yes.
The answer is always yes.
My mum is enjoying this.
Any more questions? Yeah?
I have a question about scanning.
Uh-huh.
In X3 you could send a scout out and he would scan sectors for you.
Mm-hmm.
And in X Rebirth that's not possible. But in X Rebirth you also have to manually scan every little thing of the station.
Yeah.
Can we not? I mean, we are in the future.
Well,
we are in space. We have scanners flying in.
I know this was also a criticism in the beginning of X Rebirth. I think we addressed that partially with having lots of upgrades that make this easier, especially when it's about the trade offers. This is the part that people
disliked the most, that they had to collect the trade offers one by one. You have, I think, since X Rebirth 2.0 or something, there's the trade computer upgrades, which give you, like, once you are at a station, you have all of the offers, but only for a temporary, I don't know for how many hours, but for some hours. And then if you had the agents, of course, which give you permanent trade offers. So in X4, this is a little bit similar, but easier. You have also the ship upgrades that give you trade offers quicker. Through the map, you have a much better overview of what you know and what you don't know. And more importantly, it's not just you getting those things, but all of your ships. So I don't know if this was really could really be seen in the map before, but first of all, there's a fog of war, right? So the part that you have never visited on the map, you don't know about. You don't even see it. Once you have been there, then you see the stations, but you don't see ships, you don't see dynamic information. This is just the static information, there was a station here. But if you have a ship nearby, then you see live information. And the live information also gives you then the updates about trade information and so forth. So this is...
You don't have to like separately scan every part of the station.
You can do it, but you don't have to do it to get trade offers, and you also don't have to do it to... This is an optional thing you do sometimes to get secret information. The idea is, like, especially when you want to build yourself. This is where the building part comes in. You saw the build... did we? I think we did show it in the video, yes. The whole build interface where you drag the modules together. Clearly, not all of those modules are available from the start. When you start the game, you only know few. So if you want to get the knowledge necessary, we call that blueprints, right? The blueprints for modules, you have to scan stations, and some are harder to get than others. Okay. Yeah, but this is only it is a different part of the gameplay, and I think not as repetitive. You only do it once to get that information.
Very tedious.
Yeah, I know, and that was the criticism that it is repetitive and tedious. But this is not the case for blueprints. You only get them once, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. About the resource sinks. Besides war, are there going to be other resource sinks like populations which need consumer goods or food or other things?
Yeah, there are. There is, of course, a simulation of, we call it workforce. So there are people on stations. They are not, where these large number of people are, of course, not simulated on an individual basis. There are individuals, those you hire. Basically, you can take people out of those workforce numbers, yeah. But the number, the people that are working somewhere is a factor in the economy. So I think there's multiple drains on the economy, but I don't want to say anything wrong. For details, ask Michael. Well, no, you cannot, right? He's sick, yeah. So yeah, maybe the next time we do this. I think we have to find an end because we overlap otherwise with the presentations downstairs.
Yeah, we should probably answer some questions from Twitch chat.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Because there are quite a few building up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, internet. Yeah.
How free is building going to be?
How free can it be? You have a connection system, so you cannot connect everything completely in an ugly way. It's like Lego. As I said, Lego has these connections on top, right? So you have to use those connections, and that's really the best. I think the video is repeating at the moment. At some point, I show a couple of screenshots from the build interface. Nothing is final. Yeah, this is all work in progress. So especially with this interface, that's true. But it is super cool. You drag around the modules and connect them, and they basically click together. And when you drag a module, you see where it can fit. So if you have the larger the station gets, the more important this becomes, because there are some compatibilities, like especially some modules that have just visual limitations, like a long connection cannot be stuck right into something else. We basically force you to build something that makes some sense, but you can rotate things and you can connect them together. So and we make it very powerful through some simple stones, so to say, like what you have in Lego as well. Simple stones with lots of connections, which don't suit much of a purpose. Like the big modules, like a production module or a storage,
may not give you a lot of options, but then you have lots of those little things that you can connect it with. So that allows you to do really everything.
There was an interesting question that just came up. How many factions are planned to be in the game, and can we choose which race we play? The answer is there are 10 factions planned. The other one, I leave up to you.
How many you can play yourself? Yeah. Oh, that isn't decided yet. This is about the game starts. I mentioned the game starts, and how many different game starts there are right from the start is really not decided yet. But what we did decide is that every game start comes with a different little story, kind of. This is you, what are you doing? So there's this little, your place in the universe thing. Yeah, there's usually somebody, like maybe you have seen that before when we were playing the game start, there was a guy that was already giving you a mission. So you know right from the start what you have to do at the start. But then there are the big missions which are playable from many sides. Not necessarily from all sides, but usually there's especially the one that reveals the research and the teleportation, and that has to be playable from all sides. Anything?
I think we've already covered it, but in order to appease the internet, can stations be destroyed? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can.
And it looks awesome.
Like Michael Bay mode.
I don't know whether you want to pick some questions from here, but they're all very...
Just you pick. If you have something more, but what time do we have? Let me check.
Do we have
it's already an hour.
For instance,
sorry?
Do we get a custom player instead of Ren Otani? We can type in our own name or brand our own.
That isn't planned yet. It is different people. So you have the game start. This is the person you would be. This is the ships you have. This is like we did in, as I say, I mean, this is what Albion Prelude and Terran Conflict did mostly. Completely defining the character yourself, I don't like that. It's a little bit too generic and makes it unnecessarily generic. I mean, yeah, for the character design that would be cool, but for everything else, I think it helps to have a round package. You know, this is like what we do is we tell a little bit of a story with every game start. This is like the first game start is called
The Failed Entrepreneur.
The Failed Entrepreneur, exactly. This is a guy who wasn't so successful so far. He has, I think his father is upset with him, and so this is there's a story behind the game start, and you are playing that story as well. This is not the huge plot, but it is this story that starts you off into the universe.
And you can have custom faction logos now.
Yes.
Printed on your ships, your stations.
Yes, we just found out that didn't work for the video capturing. Yeah, there's custom logos on your ship. Also, what I found really cool is also the numbers on the ships. You saw them in the video. They are real. They are the ID of the ship. They are different from ship to ship.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Will ships have distinct designs between the species?
Yes, they do. The question was, do ships have distinct design between the races? And yes, the answer is yes. I think I mean, if you watch the video, you may see that several of the ships already look X3 Teladi-like and X3 Paranid-like. So there's this typical look that you know from Paranid and from Teladi that we try to save, that we try to have again.
A lot of these questions just aren't safe to answer.
Yeah.
Can we say something about a release date?
Okay, that's a very obvious question. Surprised that nobody asked. What's the release date? Yeah, that is. You can ask. You just won't get an answer. It's just no. I mean, what we can say is that it will. The proper release will be next year, 2018. We don't know yet if we will try out early access. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know.
Steam is so flooded with early access, I'm getting sick by it. Don't.
We don't know.
Will that be an open or closed beta?
Well, that is basically what early access would be, the open beta. Then a closed beta, of course, there is always. We have the DevNet for that. It's just a matter of how closed it is. I mean, we always have testers, but the group size at the moment is still too early to have that. Okay.
There's a lot of questions about modding as well.
yeah. What can we say about modding?
Whether it will be there, whether you'll be able to mod certain things in, certain
Yes,
things out.
yes. I mean, I think it's safe. We would need Klaus for that here. He's the expert on that part, but I don't want to promise anything that we cannot 100% guarantee yet. But I think it is safe to say that we will support modding, and probably also through the workshop like we did in the past, because this brings the modder content to people who are not so familiar with the details of it. So I think that I like what Valve is doing there as well. Okay, thank you very much. Or yeah, you can. We have another presentation. Thank you.
So that was the video from yesterday, and I will end this now with another viewing of the X4 video that we showed at the beginning already, but this time without the heads in front of it, so you can enjoy the gameplay footage. And as you can see in this presentation, it's all really just in-game footage. There's no cutscenes, there's nothing prepared specially. Obviously the game isn't finished yet, so please bear with us if there are some scenes that are not so final and not so beautiful yet, but I think the game really looks awesome already, and it's all playable, and we really are in a pretty good state already. So enjoy, and I hope we will repeat similar sessions very soon and can show you more in a relatively short period of time. See you soon.
In X4, we're going to have a much more dynamic universe. We've focused on that a lot in the past with our previous games, but this time we've given the AI a lot more capability when it comes to managing their fleets, building up their forces, building in new areas, conquering space. And this is something that the player can get involved in as well when it comes to missions.
The great thing about our more dynamic factions in this game is that they change the universe much more than ever before, and even for us, it's not always predictable what it's going to look like. Every start is different. And at the same time, this really, really helps to make the universe feel much more alive than ever before. That, and of course, flying every ship.
Yeah, you can fly every ship in the game. You can fly every small fighter, every medium bomber, every freighter, every miner, every capital ship and carrier if you want to. And it's a lot of fun.
The player's always looking for new technologies to research, upgrades for their ships, technology such as the transporter, which can get them into the action really quickly. I think it's a really cool addition to our game.
One of the foundations of every X game is the economy that is entirely based on supply and demand. And it's happening all across the universe, whether you are there to see it or not. Every good is produced somewhere, transported, and if it successfully reaches its destination, of course, supplies other stations. And those stations base their prices then on what they have available or not. If the ship gets destroyed, prices go up. With X4, we're going even further. It's not just the general wares that are being traded, but every aspect of the economy. That includes building ships or stations. All of it is really based on the resources that are coming out of the universe. They are produced somewhere. An advanced player can become this tycoon that has a massive empire of factories and stations that really affect anything in the universe. The entire market situation is completely adaptable and fluctuating depending on what you, the player, does.
The first-person experience is completely seamless. There are no loading screens when you fly your ship, land on a platform, get out of your ship, talk to a guy, go back to your ship and undock again. Everything is perfectly seamless.
For X4 I created new shaders for the backgrounds and especially for the planets. We added some new features where I can now control the sea level, the size of the polar caps, the cloud cover, atmosphere density and also population to dynamically adjust the planet during the design process.
One of the coolest features in X4 is management of NPCs. Pilots, for example. If a pilot steers your ship, he will be sitting on the pilot chair, of course, and it is very easy to take over the control. You just click on the chair, the guy gets up, you sit down and take over the control of the ship. He disappears to the back of the ship, and the moment you get up again, he comes back and takes over the control again and will continue whatever he was doing before. So if you give commands to your ships, it is very easy to take over temporarily and do something yourself. Complicated commands like trade runs or more sophisticated AI commands can always be given through the map interface. The map is your one gateway to everything in the game, and you can control large fleets of ships with it. And the moment you jump into any of those ships through teleportation, you can take over each and every one of those ships very quickly. This is a very cool feature and one of the highlights of X4.
The map has become an awesome tool to manage your universe-wide empire. You can see an entire overview and then zoom in seamlessly to micromanage even the smallest things if you want. You can turn on and off several info layers for trading and other things. You can give commands to your ships directly on the map. It's really cool.
About the topic station building, the changes from Rebirth we made are that you can build stations in separate pieces. You are not bound to any build plans anymore. You start construction of a station with a central module. It's usually a pier, a module where capital ships can dock. And from there you can decide if you are going to expand storages, if you add production components, and also living sections for the people to live in.
Our new engine uses a physics-based rendering approach which allows us more control over material properties. And additionally, by using Vulkan as our render engine, we now have a few more resources left that we can invest in some more advanced features. So I think that X4 will be the most stunning X game you will ever see.
The most exciting feature for me is that if you stand on a docking platform and you feel like a real person, you can look at tiny details on the ground and you can look above in the sky and see these giant constructions which makes you feel really small and you think you are really there. And there are ships parked on this platform and you can walk there seamlessly, enter the ships, enter the cockpit chair, press the button. All these instruments are going on in the ship and you start flying around to the next station, dock there, and you leave the ship and everything is just in one line. It's seamlessly and you feel, wow, there's no hard cut and it looks all great.